Do you find yourself always saying yes to things when actually you know that you really want to say no, and then feeling completely anxious and overwhelmed afterwards? My name is Karen. I've been a clinical psychologist since 2009, and Elizabeth came to me asking the same questions that I hear from so many of my high achieving, highly successful clients. Why can't I say no when I know that I should say no? So today I want to share Elizabeth's story with you because her breakthrough might be exactly what you need to hear. Please note, Elizabeth is not her real name, and all her identifying details have been changed to protect her identity. Let's get into this. Elizabeth was a senior lawyer on the partnership track at one of those big prestigious magic circle firms. Before choosing law, she'd been a highly competitive swimmer, the kind who swam for her country and was invited to try out for the Olympics. But she chose a different path to success. You see, Elizabeth was always going to be successful. She was always a very high achiever. That competitive drive, that pursuit of excellence, it was woven into her personality and who she was from the very beginning. So she was always going to be someone extraordinary. But when she came to see me, she was pregnant with her second child and still working, 75-hour weeks. She was more or less holding it together because she had everything organized. She had a nanny, she had a driver, she had a cook. Her household staff was an excellent team, and on paper, she was crushing it. But Elizabeth was struggling. The system that had worked pretty well up to this point was beginning to crack. She was stretched too thin. She just couldn't anymore. She was heading towards a burnout and starting to question what she had, built her life around. She would say, like, why can't I say no when people ask me to take on even more? Because she would do even more than work and manage her staff. Why do I say yes when I want to say no? Why do I always feel guilty that I'm not spending enough quality time with my son? The breaking point for Elizabeth came one evening when she heard her little boy explaining to his stuffies in this like little matter-of-fact tone. He was like, "Mommy can't come. Mommy's working. Mommy's always working. Mommy loves working." And when Elizabeth heard this, she felt so torn. She couldn't clone herself. She could not be with her son and get everything done that she was trying to do at the same time and be on this partnership track. But she was pregnant and she'd already missed out on her first child's babyhood, or at least a big part of it. And she was worried about missing out on more. And in therapy, she realized that actually that prospect was horrifying for her. She actually didn't want to miss out on more. And I think she hadn't even considered to that point that there could be a different way of doing things for herself. She'd been focused on this partnership track since she made the choice to do law at university instead of, continue as a competitive swimmer. And she'd been working so hard that she wasn't even really aware that her values may have shifted. By the way, if you'd like to work with me, there's a link in the description to connect with me directly. Please do. You're also welcome to join my high performance mindset community, which is hosted on a new platform called School. Check it out. The link is in the description also. So the real problem for Elizabeth is not, that she was saying yes because she was weak or she didn't know how to set boundaries or she didn't, She was saying yes to all the demands on her because her actual identity was built around being successful, and saying no felt like a betrayal of who she is. Elizabeth's always been the one who succeeded. From being at the top of her class when she was a kid, to the competitive swimming, then at law school, And then her career trajectory, I mean, she was doing really well. Every time she said yes to taking on challenges and taking on more, she had been rewarded. And her brain had learned that saying yes was associated with recognition and progress. But now she was totally torn between the part of her that still had her sights set on that partnership. I mean, she hadn't changed. She still wanted it. She'd worked her entire career towards this goal. And if she started saying no to opportunities, if she started decreasing her incredibly important billable hours to be with her kids, she absolutely risked everything that she'd been working so hard for. Elizabeth was a confident, successful woman. The problem was that saying no to her career was like giving up on all the sacrifice and hard work that she had already put in. So for her to change her priorities was hard. You know, she was single-minded, she was focused, she was ambitious. She was stressed about who she was going to be if she wasn't this person. Her circumstances had changed after she had her first child, but she actually hadn't really given herself time to reflect upon what that change had meant for her and acknowledge what that change was going to mean for her going forward. So the breakthrough came when Elizabeth did a values exercise with me, and she realized that what was happening was that two of her most important values, being her ambition to succeed in her career and her desire to be with her children, were conflicting. So she needed to prioritize them. There's no right answer to this, right? But with a lot of soul searching, Elizabeth realized that the identity that she'd always known wasn't actually serving her current priorities. Every yes she uttered at work was another vote for the identity that she always had and that she'd always known and she was very familiar and comfortable with. So it was scary to think of who she was going to become if she gave up that identity and became somebody else. But here's what's lovely about Elizabeth's story. She is an incredibly strong and confident woman in so many ways, and she definitely didn't need to become a different person, but she needed to use that strength and courage to identify what she truly valued in her life now and give herself permission to make choices that were aligned with her current deepest values. Actually, always her deepest values, but having children, you know. So having children had changed how she prioritized her values. She did something that took a lot of courage. She resigned and she decided to take 2 years off. She was terrified about what that was going to mean for her career, for her future, for her identity. And let's face it, it probably didn't do it any good. But she decided to trust herself that she would make it work. And during those 2 years, it was actually really good. She discovered parts of herself that she actually had never explored really. She was surprised to find that she was actually very fulfilled. Well, pretty fulfilled in being a stay-at-home mom. She was reconnecting with what mattered to her, and she had a lot of pride in doing that. But being Elizabeth, she also took the time to completely declutter her house, to reorganize everything and set up the most efficient systems that you can possibly imagine in that household. So everything ran like clockwork when she decided to return to work. And when she was ready to start working again, she didn't just take anything. She found the perfect job with the perfect contract, with the perfect part-time contract on her terms, with a company that actually values work-life balance. And she made peace with the fact that her path might look different from her original plan, although I personally believe that she's 100% going to make a partner. You know, her solution was dramatic, and not everyone needs to take 2 years off and, you know, forego the partnership track or make massive sacrifices. I mean, for me personally, I never took time off for any reason, including having children. And that wasn't really a choice that was actually open to me. But I found that for me to live according to my values, I decided to work by myself, for myself, online, and I only work 3 to 4 days a week. So even when I work really long hours, doing things my way, this way, means that I can always plan my schedule around my family, because family is super important to me. It's my value. But there's no one-size-fits-all solution. We all have different values, different priorities, and the key is identifying what is yours and having the courage to honor and live true to your values. Please let me know in the comments if you've ever felt torn between different identities, like who you've always been and who you are becoming. When you identify your values and you become really clear on who you want to become, who you want to be, that is your solution. Not the values that you think you should have, but your authentic values, the ones that actually matter to you now. And when you are clear, then saying no becomes much easier. Making all kinds of decisions becomes much easier. Every action you take is a vote towards your new identity. And you can do this step by step. You don't have to be like Elizabeth and make a big dramatic change all at once. There are softer ways to realign your life with your values. And for most of my clients, I find that tweaks are what is required, not big, massive changes. But for Elizabeth, she needed that clean break, and she was in a position to give that time to herself. Elizabeth, to me, is more of a success story now than ever, because she had the courage to question everything and to choose authenticity over external expectations and even internal expectations, and to rebuild her life about what she recognized as being her true values. I have a video about how to identify your values, and I'm going to link to it here because it's such a crucial step. And I hope that you do that exercise. Please watch that video. Elizabeth's story shows us that sometimes the inability to say no isn't anything about boundaries. It's all about identity. When you're clear on who you're becoming, then saying no becomes a tool to create the life that you actually want, the life that you choose for yourself. Your worth isn't determined by how much you achieve. And when you truly believe that, then saying no becomes easier, because you're saying yes to something that is actually more important than you are. If this resonates with you, and if you know other high achievers who need to hear this, please do, like and subscribe and all the things, and share this video with anyone who needs to hear it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.